What Newcastle fans demand is a club that is at least aiming to be successful. Getty Images, Daniel Storey 25 minutes Monday, January 21, 2019 St. James Park, Newcastle, stay or go. What would you do? What is for the best? And does anything I do even matter? This is the fortnightly conundrum that faces the supporters of any football club in civil war. By attending matches and spending your money, you are implicitly supporting a regime that you hate. Even if you resolve not to buy the replica shirt, or buy refreshments in the stadium, your mere presence validates the behavior of the owner. You have proved yourself to be ripe for exploitation. Blackpool fans have been boycotting home matches for more than 2 years. But by not going, has the owner not already won? More than any manager, player or owner, this is your football club. You were paying to travel the length and breadth of the country to watch the team long before they considered it their temporary home. You grew up with the hand-me-down memories of demigod teams in their halcyon days. No other stakeholder gets the same Thursday morning buzz as the countdown to Saturday, 3 p.m. begins. Nobody else has pre-match rituals and post-match laments or celebrations. Even when they publicly purport to care, hurt by defeat or lifted by victory, it barely matches up to your everyday, baseline obsession. Why should the incompetence or neglect of one person take that away from you? And so the saying goes, whichever name is above the door and whoever holds the key, they'll never own our football club, it belongs to you and me. Moral maze. Newcastle United supporters are currently wrestling with this moral maze. The deadline for season ticket renewal is January 31st, and many holders are deeply uneasy about funding apathy. Do you give up on something you love because you are sick of being taken for a ride? Read more. Rio Ferdinand has absolutely embarrassed himself with Mike Ashley and Newcastle comments. Saturdays like these can easily reel you back in all over again. It wasn't just the 3 points, 3 goals and one huge sigh of relief at full-time, but the determination to fight for every ball and leave everything on the turf. It was the signs of green shoots in Sean Longstaff, an academy graduate central midfielder with the maturity of a veteran. Suddenly the potential to rise above the off-field drudgery reveals itself. Despite everything, Newcastle are united. Mike Ashley did his bit for pre-match morale, with reports on Friday evening suggesting that former transfer advisor Dennis Wise, Newcastle supporters might give him a slightly more candid title, was back inside the owner's inner circle. If so, it's a hell of a PR move. Perhaps Rio Ferdinand is head of merchandising next, followed by Richard Keys as Benitez's right-hand man and a nickname change to the Sports Direct Macums. And then came the inevitable reports that a proposed takeover was unlikely to happen in the short term. Prepare your expressions of deep shock that a man demanding an unrealistically high price has been unable to shift a sinking ship starved of investment, having done exactly the same trick several times before. Given the uncertainty, you'd have to be a fool or axe grinder to hold Benitez most responsible. Ferdinand and Keys can choose their camp. Chance of protest. Mike Ashley, public enemy number 1 in Newcastle. Getty Images. Ashley was present. He watched on like a modern-day Sir Thomas Bloodworth, whose inaction when Mayor of London allowed the Great Fire to spread and burn large parts of the city. Even Bloodworth probably wasn't abused directly in quite so uncertain and fruity terms. Whatever joy was sourced from victory, the supporters' chance of protest continued long after the final whistle. Read more. How Newcastle fans are fighting back against Mike Ashley and his apologists. In the media there is a marked difference between every club's home and away support, but at Newcastle the contrast is particularly stark. Fueled by dark humor and several cans, the typical Geordie away fan has long stopped the result of the match ruin a good day or evening on the road. They begin their journeys out of duty and habit, but they sing and shout and jump because singing and shouting and jumping at away games is all they have ever known and loved. At St. James's Park, an unease hangs over the pitch like a low smog while the score is level. You are aware of its presence on the train on the way up, as supporters embark in increasing numbers at Doncaster, York, Darlington and Durham, eventually creating a throng of black and white scarves and glances that scream, "Back on this Tiaga in." Uncomfortable standoff during the match. They wait for something to go wrong, a hardwired rather than deliberate pessimism. Being guarded against disaster will at least reduce the eventual pain. When you have been bitten so many times by the hand that is supposed to feed you, shyness is inevitable. So players wait to be inspired by fans and fans wait to be inspired by players, an uncomfortable standoff with a soundtrack of groans and sighs. First half goals become precious currency. Shar's run and finish lifted the gloom. Read more. Mike Ashley has turned Newcastle into Sports Direct, a business stripped of all identity. There is a misapprehension that Newcastle United supporters demand success. Nonsense. What they demand is a club that is at least aiming to be successful. This is a question of pride, not glory, a belief that the miles and pounds and hopes and fears and cheers and tears are not entirely wasted. Make Newcastle great again? Let's start with make Newcastle try again. But in the absence of leadership, investment and, seemingly, care from their owner, Newcastle and Benitez fight in. With Huddersfield, Burnley, Crystal Palace and Southampton still to visit St James's between now and May, an unlikely, and in Ashley's case undeserved, survival bid is on again. Love endures in this hopeless case. More from Daniel Storey, Football Premier League Sport. Mike Ashley, Newcastle United FC.